Okay, hey, we are live at this point. Hi, welcome. For those of you in the channel or those of you watching or listening later on YouTube, we are Adventures in Lollygagging. Thanks for joining us. We're playing a little Genlab Alpha, continuing the story that we've done. This is like session 5 now, so it's been pretty fun so far. It's mutantyearzero game, published by Free League. That's good stuff, so you can check it out. We also do a couple other things. We play a bunch of Zweihander all the time. Thursday nights, 7 o'clock PST, we play Zweihander over on the Zweihander RPG Twitch channel. And we also release a podcast every Monday, also Zweihander, and we do a few other things. We play some Shin Megami. I just got my Heart RPG. Did I tell you about this one, Long? You're a Darkest Dungeon fan, right?
Yeah.
So Heart RPG just gave us the PDFs if you were a Kickstarter backer last week. And I got it, and I'm going through it, and it's like my total obsession. I've been prepping like crazy all these other games this week because I've played, like I said, 3 days in a row now, and I'm playing a game tomorrow. But Heart, it's just that's all I got. So all I have now all week, Melissa can attest to this, I've been singing songs by Heart.
Yes.
Because I am that obsessed with Heart RPG, which is basically Darkest Dungeon, the RPG, right? That's kind of like the aesthetic is cool. You're delving into this crazy thing. So we're going to play some games that I don't know when, and I don't know who's going to be in it, but we're going to do it. I've already started messing around with their Twitter page. I know Matt over at Grim and Perilous wants to play too. He and I've been messaging about it too. I don't know which one of us is going to GM it, but I kind of want to. We'll see. But it's going to be fun. All right. So we ready to get started? Derek, you got your point spent. You ready to go?
I did. I put my level up point into Scout so that it's level 3 now.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, everyone got enough. Has everyone gotten enough Aurora points at this point to get something? Yeah? Yeah, we're all good. Okay, so did you all go talents or did you all go skill points? I know Derek just said he went scout. What about the rest of you?
I upped a sense of motion.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Skill. I upped my shoot.
Okay. Good.
I took the Stonewall talent, which just lets me defend against multiple close combat attacks in the same rotation.
Makes sense. And Helena, what'd you do?
I went for Dominate because I had issues getting inside any gates. So
that was pretty.
You had to go stomp off into the forest.
But your creativity was perfect, so it actually worked out.
Tantrum.
And it gave you the knowledge to then poison your bad mouthing neighbor rival.
Goddamn Cicero.
All right, so
do you know where I picked that from?
Where?
Skyrim.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I've been doing the Ringo voice, but I totally screwed it up in my head. I was trying to do the Khajiit voice, like Khajiit as wears if you have coin, and like I was trying to do that was my Ringo voice. I was trying to do that, and I realized, wait a second, isn't that an Argonian? Isn't that the Argonian? I can't remember.
No, it's Khajiit.
That was definitely
Khajiit. I did have it right. Okay, I did have it right.
You did.
But I got it. But Ringo is a lizard, so I really should have done Argonian.
Yeah,
it's all very complicated.
It's a little bit harkening back to Arrhenius Rathmore, which was also fun.
Arrhenius Rathmore was Gabe, who's played some Shin Megami with us. That was his original Arrhenius Rathmore, and I would always speak in third person. I don't know why. It's crazy. My voice is somehow hanging in despite playing a bunch this week, but we'll see. Tomorrow I actually get to play a game as opposed to GM, and I'm playing in a tiny dungeon game over on Notorious DMG TV, and we're playing. How do I describe this? We're all basically a band that it's going to be some sort of dungeon crawl with like crazy groupies and stuff.
But
just a group of bards,
like a metal band. So I'm playing
power metal. Yeah.
Can it be glam rock?
Hair metal. Yeah, hair metal. I'm with Logan.
I have decided I'm playing the roadie, and so are you all familiar with Tenacious D?
Yes.
Yeah.
So have you ever watched the roadie video for Tenacious D? It's Danny McBride.
Yes.
And so I'm building my entire character around Danny McBride. So that's all I'm doing. So like you have to pick things like, what's your belief and like what's your family talent. And so I'm saying things like I make the rock go. Like that's my belief, that's my creed. The rock is the rock, the road is the road. So every single thing I do is gonna be built around Danny McBride's character from the roadie.
I love
song.
it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
That's amazing.
He's gonna be a big black bear, and for where it says like, "What are you wearing?" I just wrote black. That's it. Doesn't matter. It's just gonna be wearing black. It's gonna be great. So anyway, that's tomorrow night over on Notorious DMG at something like what the hell time are we doing? I think we're doing like E8 Central or something. But let's dive into MutantYearzero and let's play a little of that. Let's do a little quick summary. I wrote one up this time. Posted it to the Discord. I'm not sure if you all read it yet, but
I read the homework, Jeff.
Did you? Nice. Normally no one does except for Ashley.
Oh, okay.
Melissa,
I was like,
Melissa doesn't even read it, so
Yes, I do.
whatever.
Stop lying.
Okay, so we've got a couple things. So we did some habitat development, which was a lot of fun because we got to see Helena lure Cicero, this guy who is bad mouthing her sister's leadership skills, and so she basically poisoned them to death, which was awesome, right? I assume that when we faded to black, you and Octavia actually just ate them because I think that's what cats do. They eat dead bodies. It might be cannibalism, but I don't know.
I was about to say, are
quite
cats known for
imagine that.
cannibalism?
I imagined more of like slowly dismembering his body and
Oh,
then,
Jesus.
like hiding it around the compound.
Couldn't you have just dumped it in a river? Good
No,
God.
that's
Well-
not fun.
We'll see if the murder and disappearance of Cicero comes back at all in the campaign later on. Let's see who else we had. McCloud started his career as street preacher.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Hops on top of a crate, starts giving a speech in the Lodge Market, a market that you all kind of harassed in your first big mission for the Resistance, and he got some converts, some low-level foxes and wolves, but a long way to go to really have a huge flock. But
You gotta start a separate spreadsheet for that where we have a church like conversion table.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should roll some dice and see how many followers in his flock.
Yeah, the followers start spreading the word.
Okay, I like it. I'll figure out something. Let's see. And then Tchaikovsky, you saved one of your friends from a giant monstrous crocodile while
I did. What was his name? Do you remember? Did you read the homework?
Is-
Oh, you got it.
I wrote the homework.
Did you do your homework?
Hey, just because you wrote it doesn't mean you're paying attention.
I didn't proofread it, so I don't know if it was. There might be typos, but it was Surge, and I remember his special weapon. The weapon he likes was like a big old like tree trunk, big club from a branch. I remember that too. 'Cause
Right.
I listened back to some of the episode just to remember. Let's see who else over in the Badger encampment, Badger habitat. Let's see. Logan tried to talk Cujo tried to talk Chelios, this hunter who had been raising. He's like kind of been price gouging folks, sort of with his kills, and like Cujo's trying to protect his friend Gretzky, and Gretzky runs his shop or something, and Chelios's prices were too high. Well, he couldn't talk Chelios down. He did manage to go out into the wild and find it himself, and so Gretzky's shop stays open another day. And then Hamill continued to disappoint her parents. She thought that by hunting and getting food, that is totally going to distract them from realizing that their son was abducted and taken. And
I'm
Hamill
sorry, I
was
got
supposed
my
to protect.
brother killed. Please accept more meat.
Here's
That might be my brother.
here's some Omaha
Jesus.
steaks. Just a big box of Omaha steaks. Sorry about Hamilton. Let's see. And so that's it. Yeah, that was everybody. And then you guys got pulled back to Truffaut, the Resistance, to get started on your next big operation, which was to head over to the Ape Tribe and to sort of do some recon, see what it's like over there, get a taste for what's going on in terms of the Resistant. Who's sympathetic? You know, is this a habitat that can be some kind of ally to the Resistance? Is this somehow going to be a harder sell? You were given one contact to talk to, which was Largo, which is a powerfully big gorilla, possibly the biggest and strongest animal mutant in the valley. And that was the idea. Go talk to her and see if you can get some sort of promise of affiliation or a bigger crew of apes to kind of push forward, and just to sort of see what just figure out what's going on there. Get the lay of the land, since none of you are apes yourselves and can really tell us what it looks like. En route to the ape habitat, you ran into a little incident involving some wolf lodge guards who were harassing at this strange kind of sewage-ish plant. You're not really sure what's going on. There's a big old chunk in the earth and all sorts of the strange green sewage, and there's a bunch of what we know as porta potties thrown all around. But there is a tainted ape, or monkey, I should say, chimpanzee, with multiple arms that was getting harassed by these dogs, these wolves, and you all intervened and killed them and threw their bodies into the sewage. And then many of you were injured. So the monkey led you into a secret little cove going through a porta potty and down into some kind of underground hidden area. And I also learned something because I actually looked something up, and I already put it in the notes before, but we had forgotten about it. There is such a thing as a coup de grace. So when somebody's low on health, like when their damage is like fully depleted, when their strength is fully depleted, if you want to kill somebody, you can just perform a coup de grace and just try to get a fight or a shoot skill test. If you pass, you kill them. That's it. So some of the wolves that you all were continuing to attack when they were on the ground, when you attacked them, I think Helena specifically did this. She attacked somebody who was already at 0. You straight up killed them. So 1 or 2 of them were dead before you threw them in the sewage, but one of them was still alive, and they were screaming, "No, traitor!" to McCloud, who turned on his doggish brethren. That's.
I was about to say, I think Cujo and Hamill were the only ones that didn't just like beat these like half alive corpses to death. I think it was me and Helena that were just going full bloodlust.
Are chameleons meat eaters?
I don't believe so. No, I think they're herbivores.
I mean, they do eat
Looking it
bugs.
up right now. That's true.
So
that's true, but I mean,
they eat live insects. Yes.
All right, I guess
technically
that counts.
carnivorous.
They're apparently the term is insectivore.
I knew there was
bullshit internet
word.
term, or if that's a real thing, because I sucked at biology. But that's a thing. Okay.
Also, speaking of sucking at biology, chimpanzees are apes, not monkeys.
I know.
Ooh.
Ape is the general term for the habitat, but there's 3 different kinds of apes in the valley. There's chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas. Those are the 3 separate packs. Specifically, you saw an ape from the chimpanzee. It's like chimpanzee, but they were tainted. So remember that a tainted mutant is like takes on some other components, and they're usually outcast. And that's why they have extra arms. And so it's a fairly decently sized chimpanzee too. We should talk about the way that chimpanzees attack people one of these days, but not right now because it's so frightening.
Just link to the Joe Rogan podcast, and that will give people plenty of information on chimpanzee attacks.
Joe Rogan. Wobbly and I used to talk about this. It's very frightening what they do. It's so gross. Okay, so let's get started. You have all jumped down into this dark like little self-dug hole, and as you go down, you realize about halfway down, as you're kind of climbing using like spider climb, like holding the walls as you're going down easily, it stops being kind of slimy muddish rock and eventually becomes metal, and you realize that this is some kind of underground infrastructure built likely by humans of lore. And as you're following this chimpanzee, they start heading and they start moving in what you would assume is about a southerly direction, and they continue to crawl along on what also looks to be metal floor, metal walls, until it opens up into this kind of larger circular room, mud and sludge on the ground, all sorts of like there's like items all over the place. It's like a hoarder, like you just like a hoarder's a trailer that you just walked into. Smells horrific. But it's some sort of underground structure. You're not really sure what it is. Maybe part of a sewer, maybe some kind of filtration system. But it stinks to high heaven in here. And there's just crates and collections and mud and all everywhere. And you can see the chimpanzee starts crawling over, and they were hurt significantly too. And she just kind of collapses against the wall and just starts to breathe. And she says, we'll be safe in here if we're quiet. Thank you for helping me.
I'll take a look at Helena and I'll say, do you want me to find some supplies to help you treat this person so that they're a little more stable?
We should. I'll see what I can do currently, but that's the wrong accent. But anyways, so she says, I keep thinking about Lavinia today.
Yeah.
She says she'll see what she can do currently, and because she's had some stuff on her.
Yeah, and whatever items you're missing, I can try and scavenge for if this place is filled with just like it sounds like this is like a scroungers type environment.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, a scavenger environment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask the ape her name.
She calls herself Faraday. Faraday 14. And who are you?
My name is Cujo.
Thank you, Cujo. I seem to have suffered some injury. Make yourselves at home here. It's the least I can do. And she says, if you lizard creature, there in the toolbox, there's some rations of food. And so you flip open this gnarly looking old school metal toolbox, rust all over the place, and there are these dried pieces of, you want to think that they're meat, but who really knows? So I like to have mystery jerky in every campaign that I ever run. And so this,
okay,
you start looking and there's about 10 rations worth of mystery jerky. So
can we just split it up evenly?
I mean, you're not going to take all of it. That would be rude, but you can each take a ration. You take all this person's food.
Right?
It's like, can I have a drink? No, I'll just take all the vodka. Thank you.
Is there drinkable water nearby?
Looking around, there is not.
Okay.
There is some liquid. There's some standing liquid, but it's got that kind of greenish tint to it, and it stinks. And every time you get close to it, you don't feel so great. You would think that probably consuming that would not go well for you.
I've got 5 rations of water if you need some, Cujo.
I'm at 0 right now, so if you want to slip me 1 or 2.
Yeah, I'll give you 2.
I took my ration for the day already, but for tomorrow I'll definitely be getting dehydrated.
Just remember, you all need to consume per day 1 ration of food, 1 ration of water, and then if you want to heal a little bit on top of it, for every ration of food that you consume, you get 1 point of strength back, and for every ration of water you consume, you get 1 point of agility back. But again, that's above and beyond the 1 and 1. Like the first ones that you eat for the day don't heal you at all or anything.
Cool. Yeah, just for communication, I give Cujo 2 rations of water, and then also I consumed 1, so I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
How many of you are down? That's some damage.
I healed up this morning.
Okay.
I was
I got
down
it.
2, and I ate 2 food on top of my 1, so 3
I have
total.
1 confusion.
Okay. Confusion is recovered through rest.
Yeah.
It was, middle of the day, early afternoon. You probably could have made it to the ape habitat before sunset had this interlude not happened. Faraday does seem to be gracious enough, but you can tell Helena, looking at her from afar, from like the other side of this little cistern area, that she is really laboring in pain. She suffered an injury in combat, and while you don't necessarily know the specifics of what that injury is, just from looking at her, you can tell that she is probably in need of some kind of healing if she's going to fully recover.
Okay.
Through my scavenging and through Helena's healing, will we be able to stabilize her?
So what are you looking for when you're scavenging? What are you looking for?
Well,
I guess it'll be dependent on what Helena finds wrong with her.
Okay, so if you want, I mean, like, there's a couple, because if you're just looking to essentially heal an injury is what you're after. So
yeah.
Faraday took a critical injury, so they're at 0, which means that they can't move up the strength track. They can't move off 0. They can do like their whole like temporary I'm alive type of thing, and if they take any more damage, if someone coup de grace them, etc. But you can effectively you don't necessarily know if it's lethal, so that's one thing, and you don't necessarily know how long it would take for her to heal. So you can just effectively do a heal test if you want,
Okay.
to try to allow her to start recuperating.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, why don't you do that? Roll a heal test. First roll of the night.
We'll roll it.
Let's hope they're
Ooh.
Ooh.
better
Yikes.
than. Oh boy.
Oh no.
You want to push that roll?
Take some trauma.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
little spoiler alert for our podcast on Monday. Ashley is also the healer in that campaign, and she had to make two bandage tests on people and critically failed both times.
So she just like
And in
just cuts
Zweihander-
the limbs off.
In Zweihander, you infect people if you critically fail, so they infected their wounds. All right, Ashley's got a success, but she also took a
Yay.
trauma. So what was that one? That was a skill dice, right?
Base dice.
It was a base dice? Okay, so you're going to take
Yeah.
1 point of, what's it called? I can't remember what heals under. Is that wits?
Instinct. So doubt.
Okay, so you take 1 point of doubt.
I like to imagine that she infected the wound by like doing the whole like dad healing of like just rub some
Just-
spit and
yeah.
some dirt on it.
Rub
No,
some-
it was
rub
like
some
I
dirt
was
on it,
healing
kid.
like Josh.
Pour a little
because
Robitussin
Josh was
on
like,
it.
Let me get some snow and pack some snow into there, but it's
Oh, God.
pea snow.
Yeah, those are yellow snow.
All right, so you have successfully healed her, and you can tell that it's not a lethal injury, but it does seem to be some sort of like fracture or something to the ribs where she'll be able to recover if she
Okay.
just continues to eat food over the next few days. She can probably get back to strength. And again, she thanks you, and and she just leans back and says, "They've been coming around so often lately. They're very rude." And she
What are
looks-
they after?
Oh, they just like to hurt me from time to time because I'm different.
They nearly killed you.
I think that they probably would have relented if you all hadn't intervened, but I'm still glad you did. Though I do worry that when the others arrive, they might find the remains decomposing in the sewage.
Is anyone even brave enough to go searching through all that muck?
No, I think your kind might have some very adverse effects to prolonged exposure to it, but I seem to have some greater resistance. You're welcome to stay here for the evening, and I don't mean this rudely, but only for your protection. I don't think you should stay here very long, or I fear what might happen to you.
Oh no, we were on our way. But why doesn't your tribe do a better job protecting you?
I am not part of my tribe.
She's tainted.
The Wolverine, I think, is correct. She kind of looks down in a way. I am tainted, they say. The apes, they did not want me on the islands. I tried to move to other parts of the habitat, but they said I could not stay either.
You know, we're all
Darn.
kind of outcasts ourselves. If you want to join us, we're a cell of the resistance. We can tell that you have not much to fight for, but if you want to join us, we can promise you protection for as long as we can.
She thinks about that for a moment. The resistance, what is that?
There's only one thing that we're fighting against, and it's the Watchers, and we could use all the help we can get.
And you see her just immediately shrink away. I don't want to go near them again. They are very frightening. The machines. That is the right word, right? Machines.
Yes. So you want to live out the rest of your days in this tainted hole, just waiting for the dog tribe to kill you? Or do you want to put your life towards something useful?
What use could I provide this resistance. I am nothing. And you see her just kind of slouch, like just broken, defeated person. I have been told by the apes, and then the bears, and then the rabbits even, that I could not stay, that I was too grotesque. How could one like me help if they can't even stand to look at me? You are the first to even talk to me without first kicking me in my face.
Tchaikovsky will look around like the environment that we're currently in, and since there's a bunch, you said there's a bunch of like crates or like just collections of items.
You can tell that she's got a little scavenger blood in her. Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
definitely this is a person.
So
Let's throw a trench coat on her and maybe a hockey
a
helmet.
wagon.
I mean,
Yeah, so that's exactly what Chai is going to say, is like, I'm going to look around and like in a moment of non-grumpy old manness, I'm going to say, well, look at all the stuff that you've collected here. Like, the resistance needs people that can gather vital resources, and you clearly understand what is vital and what is not worth hanging on to.
I am very good at collecting things when I'm allowed to collect them. I know some very special places in the valley that even people like you wouldn't go to. Only the tainted and the monstrous go to. But there are some wonderful finds. If only I could go back there. She kind of looks down
But-
front again.
With the resistance's resources and with their support, you could go back to those places. You're right. There are places in this world that, yes, even the most skilled scavenger can't go, but you clearly bring something else to the table.
I could go back. Really? Oh, I would like that. I found the most wonderful place off to the east, but the bears said I could not stay, and the rabbits said they would hurt me if I tried to go back again. Oh, I
Well-
would like to go back.
With our word of support, I don't think that you would have any trouble going back to where you need to go.
There were so many things there, too. I only could take a few, but... Oh,
And of course, Chai, hearing about this, like, do chameleons have ears? Whatever. My scales perk up. And I'm like, tell me about these things that you found.
Oh, there were so many. There were clothes, and there were little lights that blinked, and there were things that you could put inside of things. Oh. And I only could take a few things before I left. And there were so many. They were on shelves. So many shelves. And there were rows of shelves. And on each shelf, there were many things and copies of things.
This person found a Walmart.
I don't know what Walmart is. Is that something? I've never been to your place.
Well, you see, before our time, there were these big buildings that held just rows upon rows of, and yeah, I just go into like this big historical discussion.
It was like that, yes. It was like that. I still remember the iconography. There were human words, and there was what I think is called a sign, and then there was an image. And she gets very excited as she kind of like reaches inside of her coat and she looks at this little piece of parchment and she quickly puts it away. I drew the image. Would you like to see it?
Oh, Chai is all about that. He's gonna like scuttle on over really quick.
Oh, and so she actually gets a little concerned as you get interested. Why don't you roll a dominate check really quick there, Chai?
Ooh, okay. Oh, actually, no.
I'll
I need
give
to drop
you.
that down.
I'll give
I have the megaphone. Does this help at all? Can I scream in her ear?
If you want to, if you're
No,
trying to
don't
like,
make noise.
so
let's
you're gonna get,
let's check rank, and since she's tainted, I think
First
that
of
gives you
all-
bonus too.
first of all,
good point.
You're gonna get a bunch of mods for this because you're gonna get a mod because some of the other people can participate. So +2 from the others that participated. You're gonna get another +2 because of rank. So you have +4 mod already before you roll. So
Yeah, I don't think I need the megaphone then.
okay, so go
Don't
ahead.
yell at her.
So go ahead and roll.
What you got there?
Swear to me. Okay, go. All right, let me roll my sense of motion too.
All right, I sent the roll. It might take another second or two.
It's all good. Yeah, Roll20 was acting really weird last night too. So it's
When I
okay.
booted
Still
it up
weird
today, it was
logging
like
in.
all HTML. It wasn't like the
Yeah.
usual
Yeah.
GUI.
Yeah, hey, you know they're doing what they can. There's a lot
I was
more
about to say, yeah.
games going on.
Yeah,
But
I might just roll 4d6 and see which goes through.
it'll
first.
probably
Hold
go
on.
through. It's probably just lagging. So there it goes. I think I heard it go
Ooh,
through. Okay, so you got two
That's
successes.
success.
Her roll did not go through, I guess. So I get to roll. I think
Also,
it
you
was-
should probably roll more than 4d6, unless you have 0 in instinct.
Yeah, you beat
I
it.
have 0 or I have. Oh, right, I forgot my instinct mod.
It's all good.
Let me roll an additional 2. Oh, never mind.
Just cause.
All right, so she gets a little nervous at first as you got closer, but then she
She notices my fine wares in my red, radio flyer wagon.
if I tell you where it is, could you bring me some things? And you can see all 4 of her arms start to steeple. Like so there's one here and there's one there. And then she goes ahead and she shows it. I'll show you the image that she drew in. Here we go. Let's take a look right there. Did you guys see it? I just showed it to the players.
Yeah, popped up.
Okay.
So, I've drawn this many times with special sticks that I found there that made colors. I don't know what they're called. I tried to eat some too, and they weren't bad actually.
How many different colors were there? Did you find a pack
64?
of... That's the best. Those are the best
64
ones to
different
find.
colors. I used 2 of the green colors to draw this, and then a black color. Oh, I think if you are anything like me, you will find many great things there. And no one goes because it's very dangerous there. It's very close to the outer wall. You can see a watchtower very close, and there's a lot of overgrown vegetation, and there is a fallen over sign, and then I had to stealth around. There were other creatures, abominations that were lurking, but they didn't see me. So
Abominations?
yes,
Like you?
I am not an abomination.
Ouch.
She gets very offended, and 2 of her hands come to her heart. Like, how dare you? No.
What do you mean by abominations then?
You know that the machines, the watchers, sometimes take people, animals. I really should
Yes.
use animals. Sometimes the animals, they come back different. And you all would be familiar with this. Maybe you didn't necessarily know one individually that happened, but everybody knows somebody who was taken. Sometimes they come back and they're
Melissa knows one now.
different. Maybe. He
Too
just taken.
soon.
He was just taken. It was a couple weeks ago.
I can
Hold
hope
on.
that I know an abomination. That's really like of the 2 options that I have, that is the better of the
The
options.
preferred, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so will you promise to bring me? And she starts counting on her fingers. She holds up all four hands, and each one of them has a 2. 8 things?
Chai will like. I'm assuming that this drawing that she made was like folded up and kept somewhere on her like
Yeah, it's
coat.
pretty ratty. It's like
Okay.
It's like a piece of like a paper towel that's been sitting around, so it's nice and stiff and
Yeah.
kind of brownish. Yeah.
So I'll fold that back up very carefully and like place a hand on her shoulder and say like, I'll do my best to bring you everything that I can fit in my wagon.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy. And she starts to smile, and you can tell that she's got some teeth missing. I'm gonna show people I'm just gonna show on stream really quick. See if I can. There's the little image. Look at it. Look at it. Look what she drew. It's beautiful. Maybe somebody will figure out the puzzle of what.
I got it.
Actually, shut up.
Oh, I already know it.
I know who's.
I have no idea what that is.
You guys want to share with the
I know
rest
who
of the
the
group?
No. Let it be a surprise.
Is
Let
this
it
an
be a
H&R
surprise.
block?
It's a tax. Yeah. You can get your taxes done. Did you know that the deadline was extended? Okay, I think I'm going to rest now, but I would stay here for a little while at least until they come. The wolves, they travel in big packs and they can communicate at really long distances. And you heard the warning calls going out as they were dying, and you heard the answering calls, and you heard the thundering of like wolves kind of running in the direction. So you know right now somewhere on the surface, like they're crawling around and like kind of figuring out what's going on. But hopefully you've found a good place to hide. So are you guys doing anything, trying to do some heals? Are you eating food? What are you doing?
Ate a ration.
Just resting.
Okay.
Just for the day.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm just gonna wander around her little
okay. It's not too big, but there's like literal mounds of stuff, and a lot of it's broken and trash. But occasionally you see like a glimmer of like a little doll, or you see like a couple Tupperware containers with like baseball cards in them and stuff.
any weapons.
Go ahead and why don't you? What could we make you roll for? Because you don't have scavenge. Why don't you roll a scout with a -1 modification? Because it's so grimy and gross.
Since I'm like a huge nerd / scavenger, would I be able to help Cujo with this? Since I'm already interested in her like collection.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh my god.
As
You
Let's
basically
not-
found
let's not
You found
push that.
uranium. You just picked up uranium and you're like, "What's this?"
you stuck your hands into a pile, and when you took them out,
I'm not pushing.
hypodermic needles all over the place. Ah! Terrible.
You found the sharps container.
Sure, don't want to push and just immediately die of a stroke?
Yeah,
You
pretty
sure?
good.
You're
I'm just gonna hold off on finding any weapons. I got my machete and my spike club still, so.
I forgot to ask, how many feral points did you all start with? Because it actually hits my pool.
I have
5.
6 currently.
I currently have 4.
Okay. Melissa, Ashley, Long.
I have 3.
I have 5.
5, thank you. I thought I heard 5. Melissa?
8.
You gotta use those, you know? All right, so that's gonna give me a lot of feral points, guys.
Can I
Yeah.
make some moonshine?
Do you have the ingredients to do so?
I was hoping I could be.
You have like a little
provided
to-go swell that you can just make it anywhere.
Do you have a brewing kit on it? Like a little
Oh,
personal brewing thing? No. I was teasing with that.
Keurig, you've
are-
got a Keurig.
Are
that
there
you take with you?
any? I mean, I can't remember. I remember the potion requirements, but I don't remember.
It just says like my moonshiner, a few hours of work and a successful roll of brew potion creates D6 doses of alcohol.
Okay, then yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. Maybe even you find some of the things that you would need, some bottles and things like that. I'm gonna have you do it at a -1 modification, just because this is not a very clean area. But you can guess, absolutely.
Okay. So at -1.
Is anybody else doing anything? You doing anything, McCloud?
If I listen in closely, can we like hear the howls up above or no?
If you want to go climb back up the shaft a little bit and then roll an awareness test, then you could possibly hear something. From here, you're a little bit further down. Or scout, excuse me.
Let's go.
You don't have any base dice for that?
I'll do a scout at -1 mod because you're trying to listen through a porta potty in ground.
I rolled that wrong. I have to do -1 mod. This button.
We're going to get the hang of this custom roll one of these days. You know what I'll try to do? I'll try to make a macro for it. I've been messing around with macros a bit. My old coding days are coming back to me. It was like 20 years ago.
I guess I'm just not brewing shit. Oh, I
Did that roll
have
anything?
it popped out.
Yeah, tried using the modify and the
Yeah,
edit and stuff.
That worked. That worked the second time. You just didn't get any.
but I have 0 dice.
Yeah, it shows 0. Oh, 2,
No.
5, 5, and 5. Yeah, you have 4 dice.
Yeah, you rolled 4 base dice.
You can push it if you want.
Oh, okay. No, I'm good.
You don't have any 1s, so you can push. You can roll 4d6 again and see what you get. McCloud, you don't hear any howls. There's sounds coming. There's like bubbling sounds, and you think maybe the sound of wind, possibly, but it's just too hard to discern one sound from the other. Like you can't. But you would know. I mean, you would know the wolves are very good at what they do. Like they're not very bright, and they're kind of thuggish at times, but they are very, very good at kind of sticking together and tracking. Like they're just really, really good at this kind of thing. So it's best to stay out of sight for a little while. But they'll eventually move on. You do know that, especially if there's signs of nothing. All right, Ashley, you got a success on your push, and you've got no bad biohazards. So yeah, you get 1d6 moonshine. So roll a d6 for how many. Oh, look at this. She got a 6-pack.
Everybody getting crunk tonight.
She's
Yeah.
got a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon right there. Just pulls it right out of her. Yeah, it's great. Okay.
Pabst, you say?
Pabst. Pabst is one of my favorite, like, really cheap, crappy beers.
Honestly, it's great.
Yeah, like for a cheap, crappy beer, I like Pabst. All right, so
Hamill would like to go over to her and say, so I am trained as a hunter, and one of the things that I can do is make traps. So would it be helpful for you if I kind of go a little bit farther down the tunnel and try to set a trap so that if anyone tries to come find you?
Don't set them in here, because then we might trigger them when we leave. And it's a very, you literally went through a ventilation shaft, kind of like an exhaust shaft. But if you could put them around the area, my little den, then that would be helpful. Yes. And maybe it'll get little things I can eat too.
Yeah, I could do that.
You know, she's a little insane. Like she's got
Yeah.
crazy. She's like, you can see all around the eye. Okay.
She's just spent time by herself.
No, she's very friendly though. And and she's very appreciative. So why don't you go ahead and roll for making your traps. And
So it is a hunt roll.
Mhm. so it's the same thing like Ashley was doing. You got to roll the specialty thing.
I should have paid more attention when she did it.
You could just listen. If you want to make it easy, just count up how many d6 you have and just roll that many d6. And the first couple of d6s are always going to be your skill, and then the rest of them are always going to be your base. Let's do it that way. It's faster.
Okay.
There's no lag with Roll20 that way. It's just
7d6s coming. How do you do a custom number of?
You can go into advanced dice roller.
I'll just do 5 and 2, and it'll be quicker.
Okay. Oh, that's not a good start.
2 + 4 = 6.
I've gotten tricked by that before, actually.
Yeah.
Do you want to push that?
You have 3 ones.
Well, how much skill do you have in hunt?
So hunt is agility, and I've got 5.
No, how many skill points in hunt?
2.
Okay, so the first one wouldn't count against you because it's a skill die one. It's only the base die ones that'll do bad things to you, and that's what you're gonna take 2 trauma, 2 fatigue, if you push this, guaranteed.
I
think Cujo doesn't think it's a good idea.
I will try again when we leave in the morning.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So you all settle in for the night. You find various spots. You find various cushiony clothing. It's kind of soggy and gross, but it's helpful as a pillow here and there. And you sleep. And when you wake up in the morning, Faraday is already there, kind of eating away, watching all of you sleep. Did you all sleep okay?
I woke up multiple times to
thank
the
you.
smell, but other than that, it's all right.
I went upstairs. There's nothing there. Also, all of you have to take a rot point.
What does that do?
Takes a rot point.
So there's different tiers of rot. Rot is just a bad thing that could potentially happen. But a rot point is taking 1 rot point is fine for now. So, but every time you suffer a rot point, you got to immediately roll a number of base dice equal to your total amount of rot points. So all of you just roll a d6. And if anybody rolls a 1,
Of course.
Derek.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Derek.
oh, they do have a rot point button. Cool. Derek, you take 1 point of strength damage.
That's fine.
Now, so all of you go ahead and mark 1 rot point on your sheets. And again,
Done.
you can do like Derek did and just roll it later on if you have to do it again. Every time so right now you currently have rot. And if you take another rot point at a certain point, that means you're going to have to roll 2 rot dice. And so there's ways to clean it. Like if you spend so like right now you're okay. There's some permanent points and stuff like that. There's different tiers of how strong rot can be. This is just a weak place, which means if you spent 24 hours here, you spend the night here, which is what you did, you take a rot point. There's other places where it's every hour you spend there, and there's other places where it's every minute. And as animals in the valley, you would know about some of these types of places. A lot of the forbidden zones, the eastern and the western forbidden zones, there's a lot of rumors about some heavy rot areas, and you just kind of stay away from them. This is not really a place. It's kind of off the beaten path, but you're all okay. But Faraday leads you after you all kind of break your fast. You go up and you can see that there's a little bit of overcast in the sky, but otherwise it's a fairly nice looking day. And
I'm going to try again with my trap.
Sure, go right ahead. And you can see that there are no signs of the wolf guard bodies. There you go. You got 2 successes. Okay, so you got your 2 successes. Very nice. So you see that there are no signs. They have fully dissolved at this point. As you're kind of sniffing around and looking around, McCloud, you can notice that there are some wolf tracks, and you can see they're all over the place as if they were really, really looking. But eventually they ran off in a northwesterly direction, which is the opposite direction that you all are going. But Faraday, she says to Tchaikovsky, remember, 8 things.
I just nod quietly
and she describes this. You will find the greatest artifacts you will ever find here. And there are so many. And so few people know, so few animals know about this place. And I would think that probably part of, in the back of your mind, you probably make a note of the general description, the general area, which seems to be near the wall, but on the border between the bear and the rabbit habitats. And it's kind of with some overgrown vegetation. And I mean, your big dream is collecting some crazy artifacts. So you just kind of maybe notch it away in the back of your mind as a place to check if time permits one of these days. If you guys ever make your way as a group to the bear tribe, it is dangerous. So it's probably not a place you want to go alone. But she bids you farewell. She thanks you, Hamill, for laying out the traps, and you all take off, I assume. Correct?
You're welcome.
Yes.
I hope that keeps you safe.
Thank you. And you all continue your journey over to the ape tribe. At this point, it's you have a couple options. You could cut across land and avoid the checkpoint. You can try to pass through the checkpoint, but going through the checkpoint would be even, you probably run into some watchers, and who knows how that's going to play out. Sometimes fine, sometimes not. But if you go over land, there's always monsters, abominations you could run into. So not everything's the greatest. So do you guys want to go over land and kind of cut over to the ape tribe, or do you want to follow the trail kind of as it curls around towards the river?
Land.
Okay. Any other votes on this?
I'm not feeling strongly one way or another, because if we go over land, we still have to cross a large body of water, and I don't think any of us has like that water talent that lets us swim or dive or whatever it was.
You're all pretty good at swimming, so you're all okay.
Well,
most animals, like I said, I think I said this last week, but like most animals are good at swimming. So there's no like major.
Would we be able to swim to the actual habitat though?
You could.
I imagine it's kind of far.
yeah, but there's things in the water.
That's true.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's true. But there you do. I would say, why don't all of you, if you want, do a no nature roll really quick, just to see what you know of the ape tribe, just from rumor. Maybe you visited before Tchaikovsky. It's possible in your trading days. So, and as long as somebody passes, you might get a couple bits of information. So, all right. So it looks like the Badger folk and Tchaikovsky. Maybe at some point in your lives you have been there, and you know that there are a couple ways you can get across. Of course, you can swim. The currents are decently strong, but not overwhelming. There are some things in the water that could potentially cause some irritation. But you also know that many of the chimpanzees, that they tend to congregate on the river, sometimes on the shore, and they like to fish. And they take rafts back and forth. And if you're able to, you might be able to talk them into giving you a ride across. It would be easier if you had an ape with you, but since you don't, it's still possible, though.
I was about to say, I know that McCloud had that scry that mentioned something about a bloody metal object, so maybe land is the way to go. But yeah, I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other. I'm down to do land or roads.
Okay. Since no one has any strong feelings and Hamill already started land, you guys start traveling across the wilderness, and you can see the signs of a handful of like broken down cabins. You can find like a truck in the middle of nowhere with overgrown vegetation, wildflowers, things like that. You can see a few kind of bugs swirling around here and there, none of whom seem to really give you much mind. Some of them are quite big, but it takes you a little time, a couple hours, but eventually you reach the shoreline of the river. And as you start trying to assess which way to go, Hamill, you kind of spy that you vectored a little bit southward, and so you start traveling northward up the river's shore a bit. Because you can see the ape islands in the middle of that lake where the river kind of starts from or begins from. You can hear the sounds of like the rushing river, and you can hear the sounds of a waterfall a little bit to the south of you. But as you start moving up the mud, McCloud, your foot comes down, and you suddenly, ow! You feel a little pinch of pain. Nothing you can't handle because you're a good little boy. And as you pick up your paw, you notice that there's something attached and connected to it, and you kind of rip it out, and it's this shiny thing with all sorts of bits and pieces of metal. You're not really sure what it is. Do you want to show it to Tchaikovsky, see if maybe he knows?
Is it bloody?
It's got some blood.
Yes,
it's
my blood's
certainly
on
bloody
it 'cause
now.
I just stepped on it.
Yeah.
Chai, can you take a look at this? I just stepped in it.
It's maybe 3 inches long. It's got all these little dangling metal pieces to it.
Give it here. Let me take a look. But would this be a no nature check?
This would be a comprehend.
Oh, okay. So, 3. All right, so I got to roll 8d6. Give me a second. That's 1.
Comprehend's a regular roll. You can just punch the button on it.
I wasn't sure if it was going to lag. Super.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, wow.
You want to push that?
Yeah, I'll push it.
Push it.
Okay.
Oh.
So
Well, I know,
you
but
take 2 points of wits damage. So confusion.
no.
Oh.
And you get like you look at it for the longest time. You see him just sort of like flop down in the mud, looking at this, and he's like, "No, it's not food. It's not food. Maybe I found a boomerang once, and you throw it into and it doesn't. No, it's not a boomerang. And you go get it, and you're like, what is it? What could it be? Maybe it's a gun. And so you point it at Helena and you try to pull on it. Like,
oh my
no.
God.
And
Jesus.
and then you realize, they call these things fishing lures.
Yeah.
And the humans used to use them with fishing poles. And it's a kind of a shiny, heavyish metal-looking fish with kind of these bright scales as you start to wipe some of the mud off. And there's all these little hooks. And it dawns on you that if there's anybody that would really like one of these, it would be a chimpanzee fisherman. That might be something you can use to help you get across.
Yeah, I carelessly toss it into the wagon.
Okay, and you miss it, and it hooks into the lip of McCloud, and he takes 3 points of damage. Didn't see that coming, did you? All right.
It's a heavy fishing lure.
So he's a very small little fox. All right, so you continue to travel up the river, and about half an hour later, you notice there is this kind of rundown fishing shack of some kind with a rundown pier out in front of it, on top of which there are 3 chimpanzees that appear to be fishing. There are a couple boats and rafts nearby with others. You look around, you start counting. There's 6 or 7 monkeys, chimpanzees. I'm so sorry. Chimpanzees that seem to be either fishing or taking a break from fishing. Some are sitting on chairs. You can see some are like holding their, on top of a branch that's overlapping the water, and they're just kind of hanging on, upside down from it, and like fishing upside down, using their feet to grasp on to the branches. And they see you coming, and they all kind of look at you, one at a time. None of them really seem to be too concerned with you, and they just kind of, what's up? And then they go back to their job of fishing.
I'll walk up to them, and I'll, hold out the fishing lure that we just discovered. I rinse it off in the river so there's no blood left on it. And Chai will say to them, my group of friends and I would like to go into your habitat for some trading. Here is the payment that we are offering.
And so one of these chimpanzees gets up, sets their fishing rod down in this little cut hole in the pier, so it's just still there, and you can occasionally see the line just ding, ding. Looks at you. It's got some suspenders on, right? Got some suspenders, and they got these like big wading pants. You ever seen those really big ones that like fly fishermen wear? It's got that kind of get up on, but they're torn at the bottom, so it really doesn't make sense. It's just sort of like a stylistic choice. Got a bit of a straw hat and says, "Yep, this looks like a Remington 320. How many looking to go across?" Starts counting. All you?
Yeah.
5 of us if possible.
Five total people.
I'll tell you, Remington, that'll get you 3 across, but if you can find a Schuler, then that'll get you 5. You won't happen to got a Schuler on you, would you?
And I look at this fellow, and I say, it's real interesting that you're wearing these wading pants that have a big hole torn in them. How about I patch them up so they do their jobs, and we call that Remington and the patch job good for 5 people. And of course, I brandish my trench coat, which has many patches in it to show my experience.
That's an interesting proposition you go there. let me consult my confederates over here, and we'll get back to you. Give me one moment. Go ahead and roll a dominate check. You can do this with, what's your rank?
Let me pull up my Google Doc.
5.
I have a rank of. Oh, apparently I didn't write that down. I'm an elderly
5.
person.
I
Yeah.
think it's 5. I
Should be
think you're
5.
right. So you're gonna get +1 from that, +2 for the 5 of you outnumbering the 3 that are on the pier, and then I'll give you another +2 for the lore. So +5 modification.
Okay.
And remember, with these mods, when you're doing like the normal rolls, like the skill rolls, just bump your skill up 5, and
Yep.
then just fix it after the roll. That's the fastest way. All right.
I sent it through. We'll
It's a
see when
fail.
it pops up in the. Oh, did it pop up for you?
Yeah, it popped up
Yeah.
for me. It's a fail. You want to push it?
Ooh.
You only got one skill dice left, or one base dice left. So you're really not in a ton of danger. The worst you
Yeah.
can do is take 2 trauma here. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what happens if you take? So if my instinct is only 2, so if I took 2 trauma and I went to 0, is that like
Yeah,
super detrimental?
that wouldn't be good. No.
We'll go for it anyway.
Come on, man. It's dice in this game. There you go.
Hey.
All right, this is actually a contested roll, so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
ahead and roll from my standard. So 4 d6s, really fast. No successes for me.
Ooh.
And he turns around and says, "That sounds like a deal." Mm-hmm. So you take a few minutes. Takes you probably about a half an hour to start, fiddling through your pack and through your wagon and everything to find appropriate canvas that would function, and some needle and thread. And you see this old man to old man. He's got this like kind of beard. It's kind of the kind of chimpanzee beard with a little bit of gray in it. And he's like, these feel like new. Not that I know what they were when they were new, because they never looked good to me. All right, come on over. And he leads you over to this ramshackle raft. It's got all sorts of different. There's like there's planks of wood. There's like an inner tube. You think there might be a tire. Like there's all sorts of different things. All right, Maxwell's the name, and I'll tell you what, you did such a fine job. You need a ride back. You just let me know. I'll be your Uber driver. Is kind of what I'm saying. Keep your feet and your hands and paws out of the river along the way, and if you jump in, you're on your own. All right. And so he goes, and it doesn't take too long to raft across, but eventually he pulls up to this equally rickety dock on the southern of the 2 islands. There's 2 islands. One's a little bigger than the other. They both have buildings on them and a ton of vegetation. But you get off, and you can see that there's a bunch of different apes here and there. Some of them are like up in trees, eating, kind of looking down at you, kind of like wondering what you are, what you're doing here. It's not entirely uncommon for non-apes to show here, but it's always kind of a curious thing when strangers show up, especially if they've never met you before. So people are kind of looking at you, but none of them seem to be particularly aggressive or anything towards you. Okay, well, I'm gonna go see about some business, but are y'all fixing on staying here overnight? That's a bit of a stretch sometimes, but I'll be back here if we can get you across before sunset. That might be best for all parties involved. You understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Tip of the cap. And he, and so you see him kind of rope and tie up his raft, and he kind of starts walking away. And you are on the habitat, and you can see that there is a fairly large building, kind of up a hill in front of you. You can see him starting. He's like still on the actual pier itself, stepping off onto land. It's a little bit raised off the river. There's some river rocks and stuff all over the place on the ground where the water is kind of cresting around it. And it's fairly clear here too. You can see all sorts of little like river moss and things like that growing. And as the where the pier stops, a hill begins to climb, and you can see this very large building with a couple towers, like these large, almost like minarets coming up. And you can see that in the back side, there is this basic giant wall of raised trees that seem to be on some kind of higher cliff, as if this building was built on the base of that cliff, like underneath it, and then the trees are kind of growing up over top of it. When you look off to like the west northwest, you can see that there is a wooden bridge that is going across a gap between these two islands. Periodically, you can see one of these apes either walking across it or swinging underneath it to get across. And there's another island a little bit bigger than this one, off to the northwest. It's hard to kind of make out exactly what it is. What are you all looking to do?
I have the map pulled up on my Roll20. Do we have it pulled up for the folks on Twitch?
I mean, I didn't do like a full-on map for this. I could show it really quick because I got.
I was going to say
I have the stuff
the
from
ape
the
habitat.
book. Yeah, I have the stuff from the book.
That's what I was referencing. What you were talking about seemed to
Sure.
mirror what showed on the image.
I'll give people a quick look. I think.
Do we know this water to be drinkable?
Yes,
Before we head up, can I just
Ooh.
fill up my
absolutely.
canteen?
I was about to say, I'm going to do the same thing.
Go right ahead.
How many
idea.
rations would you say I can grab?
Roll a d6 and take that many. Everyone can do that. All right, let's see if I can get this to look okay on the.
Oh,
Hey.
freaking cash money.
So for those on the stream or those watching YouTube, you can see kind of like this is from the book itself. I just did some screenshots and stuff, but this is the general layout. They're on the rightmost island, and they just got off of that rickety pier, and they're kind of climbing up that rocky hill at this point. These are the islands and the lake. All right. So
Hey Chai, I'm gonna throw you a ration of water just as payback.
and the water falls onto the ground because you can't throw water.
Just cup it, throw it at him.
All right. What would you guys like to do? Again, you were given only one contact. You now know two apes. You know Maxwell, and you know of someone by the name of Largo, a large female gorilla.
Is there someone named Boar?
Boar, you know, is one of the elders. Why don't you go ahead and roll a no nature check? Actually, no, you guys already rolled your no nature checks about the apes. A couple of you passed, so I would say the Badgers passed and Tchaikovsky passed. You would know that this habitat, the apes are run by a council, as opposed to one singular figure like the dog tribe is with O'Donnell. This is more of a council of elders. And Boar is an elder of some, as far as the three of you know, is a fairly influential one. But you don't know much about him beyond that. And Truffaut doesn't know it either, because remember, Truffaut is doesn't like to let people know who he is. Like he's hiding, so he's kind of collecting whatever information he can.
So you're saying we don't just walk in and be like, hey, we want to talk to Boar.
It's unlikely that would be effective for you.
Good to know.
Real quick side question before we continue: was wits restored by water by any chance? I couldn't remember which
Agility.
restores what.
It's agility.
Oh, that's agility. Okay.
Your wits is sleeping.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So, what's the plan?
So we took a look around, see what the ape habitat has to offer.
Okay.
Keep
Yeah,
a lookout
we can
for
look
Largo.
Yeah, I was going to say we could look for the largest ape in the habitat. So I guess we'll be kind of asking nonchalantly about that.
Okay. Yeah, you start looking around, asking around, traveling as best you can. You're not really interfered with. A couple of times you're stopped and questioned who you are and what you're doing here, but not in a rude way, just in a kind of a curious way. The apes are relatively peaceful, especially compared to some of the other tribes in the valley. But they're also kind of curious and suspicious. And when you're stopped, do you tell them the truth? Do you make something up? Do you tell them you're looking to trade, or you tell them you're looking for somebody? What is it you do?
That's what Chai would do. Is I would say I'm looking for Largo to do some important trading, and I would just hold up like a random artifact because I know that no one else would really know what artifacts are unless they're a scavenger.
Okay, so you're specifically asking for Largo, or are you doing the trade? Like you're trying to trade something?
Yeah, I would say that.
Both.
Yeah, I would specifically say I'm looking for Largo to do some trading with.
Okay. So you kind of run into a fairly puny looking gorilla, which is still bigger than all of you. And they say, what do you want Largo for?
Well, I've been doing a lot of time out in the field just collecting rare artifacts, and I wanted to show these wares to Largo, seeing as how they could use these artifacts for their work.
What kind of work do you think Largo does? Just gonna break stuff?
Well, exactly. It's durability testing. If being the biggest person is, a problem, then you want durable items. And then, of course, he goes into his spiel. He starts talking about like hardwood versus softwood and the intricacies between them.
The gorilla's eyes start to glaze over, kind of like mine are right now.
Such a good move.
Go ahead, since you're outnumbered this. Go ahead and roll a dominate check. You can take 4 mod and see if they'll give you some sort of direction. Okay, and let me roll a quick sense emotion. I got 162. Do you want to push? You can push if you want, but I can't. You already have an
push is safe.
Yeah,
yeah.
One
totally
instinct.
safe. Yeah.
Ooh,
Nice.
Get wrecked.
Okay, buddy. It's 2-1. I rolled 3 dice. Okay, so okay, I'll tell you as long as you promise to stop talking to me. Do you promise?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Chai kind of snaps out of it, and he's like, "Where's Largo?"
Up there. And so this very puny gorilla that's bigger than all of you points to the tree line in the cliffs that are back behind the building that's on the island that you all landed on.
Cool. Then I guess I'll just search out for the rest of the party and see where they're at and just kind of relay that information to them.
I assumed that they were kind of with you, which is why you got all that extra mod stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Are you guys looking to do anything else, or you just want to go straight to Largo?
I would like to either buy more grub or, if someone else in the party was looking to get more grub. I'm not
Do you have money?
super low. I don't, but I can scavenge
Barter
anything.
system.
So
okay. So, I mean, you looked around and you find a kind of a collection of folks, and when you ask about trying to get some grub, some food, they explain to you that the orangutans on the Northwest Island are the ones that have the biggest surplus of food, and they tend to control the greenhouse. And the greenhouse is where they kind of grow a lot of fruit trees and things like that. So if you're looking for fruits, that's definitely the way to go. The chimpanzees often have fish and stuff coming up from the river. So it kind of depends on what you want. Are you looking for meats? Or are you looking for fruits? If you're looking for fruits, you got to go across, and the orangutans kind of guard that stiff and dole out the fruit pretty rigidly.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm definitely, since a chameleon, I mostly eat fruits and vegetables. So that would be what I would go for. So that can wait until we finish with finding Largo.
Okay. Who else wants to do something?
On our way up, I'll scout the ape habitats, like ask a few people, maybe like how the watcher activity here is, or if they're bothered by them at all.
Okay.
Just get a sense of how they feel about them.
And do you just talk about watchers, or do you drop any specific things about resistance?
Yeah, I can hint at the resistance to see if like anyone's part of it.
You get nervous looks. And when you start bringing up resistance, especially around some of the older apes, they kind of look at you like, we don't want that kind of talk around here. No, don't go bringing that up. And you get the sense that you really should be careful with your words, or you might draw the wrong kind of attention.
Mm-hmm.
When you inquire about just watcher activity, you'll hear that most of the time they seem to be left alone. Occasional scouts here and there, drones overhead. nothing too terrible. The older folks, the older, the chimps and the gorillas and the orangutans, especially the orangutans, seem to be a little bit more watcher supportive. And some of the younger crowd seems to be a little bit more. When you mention the resistance, they kind of raise eyebrows, but they don't push it too far in open company.
Nice.
All right, who else wants to do something?
Hamill is going to try to kind of ask around and see if there's anybody here that's good at trapping. So she wants to try to, she's never been here before, and maybe they've got some, techniques or things that she could kind of learn, so that she can kind of continue being a better hunter and trapper.
You ask around, and the gorillas and the orangutans mostly eat fruits and veggies. The monkeys, I'm so sorry. The chimpanzees mostly sustain themselves off of fish. They don't really hunt. You might be able to speak with Maxwell about getting some fishing tips on your way back. That might help, especially when you're around water. But in terms of actually kind of going out and hunting the way that you do, it's not really a thing that they do here.
So in having these conversations, Hamill kind of feels good that like, oh, I can do something other people can't. Mm-hmm. So like she doesn't learn anything, but it's still a little bit of a
little bit of an ego trip.
Yeah, a little bit of an ego boost of like, I can do something they can't. Cool. Mm-hmm. So she's still got something out of the trip.
And I mean, when you get all uppity like that, a couple of them are just like, are you still eating animals and meat? Haven't you evolved to a vegetarian diet yet? Do you feel good? Isn't it bad enough that we are imprisoned within this valley now? You're eating lesser beings. Does that make you feel good about? Nah, I'm moving on. Okay. No yawning on stream.
Faces.
All right. Okay, so what else? Who wants to do something? Anyone else? Okay. So after you spend probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just each one of you kind of milling about, talking to folks, maybe in small groups, eventually you kind of make the trek up around the south and then to the east as it ramps up to the cliff. And you can see that there are a bunch of gorillas up here. There's mainly seems to be the gorilla area. And then there's a fairly large cliff that's, when you look down, maybe, 100 feet up off the river water itself. You can see there's some rocks down there. It wouldn't be the greatest place to fall from. But the gorillas are swinging back and forth super easily. Some of them are just sitting there munching food. A few are just like kind of sleeping in the branches. But as you ask, when you come up, a couple of the gorillas for Largo, they eventually point to a massive, massive gorilla who is kind of sitting off on a low-hanging branch, her feet kind of hanging down below, looking outward across the river to the eastern edge, which is barely in view. And when you wander over, a couple of these other gorillas that are kind of near her get a little chesty when you come up, like, who you think you are, like they pull like a little Sylvester's and who you talking, something like that. And then you got like this ring of maybe 4 gorillas that are kind of blocking you. And Largo she can hear you. So if there's something you're looking to say, she's still not like kind of turned and looking at you, but she's there. And the other gorillas are kind of preventing your access.
I'm gonna snarl at the ones who are kind of standing in front of me, and I'm gonna say, "Oi, a big fella like you's gonna need bodyguards like this."
And like the gorillas start getting like, oh, yeah, they start hitting themselves. Oh, you want to go, bro? Let's go, man. Let's go, bro.
I'm gonna pull down my mask and say, if you want to do this right here and right now, then we're more than welcome to.
You want to wrestle for belt buckles? We're wrestling for belt buckles right now. But before anything gets too uppity, you hear like this really low laugh, like sounds a lot like
Grandma.
I was gonna say I was trying to do my my Jabba laugh, like, hoo, 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 hoo. And you can see that the gorilla that is on this fairly thick, low-hanging branch drops down to the ground, and you can very much feel the earth shake as she lands. And when she stands, she's a good head taller, even slouching over like gorillas do a little bit. And she starts just moving past them, just pushing them side to side. Feisty little one, aren't you?
I like myself a good fight.
She looks you up and down. Maybe this not a fight you won't pick. And she kind of reaches down and pats you on the head.
Oh no.
Good.
Shouldn't have done that.
What?
Can I roll a measure enemy?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, let's go.
Like how you made an enemy of her already.
No, not enemy, but I just want to see what I'm dealing with real quick.
I don't think there is a fight that Cujo
Ooh.
doesn't like.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that, I guess.
Okay.
Let's...
So she kind of looks at you all like, what you want Largo for? And the gorillas kind of start to pan out, but they start to circle you all a little bit, like looking like, just do something, bro. Just do something. Anytime, I'll throw. And but she seems to be interested in this weird hodgepodge group of much smaller animals. The audacity of you all coming up here. What do you want? Who are you? Why are you here?
A mutual friend sent us to talk about familial relations. If we could go somewhere more private, perhaps these goons that are behind you. Go
Who
away.
you calling goons, bro? Who you calling goons?
Is this like Paul and Tony from like the Starfinder?
No. I got like a Sopranos thing in my head. That's what I got going on right now.
Chai just rolls his eyes and just, taps Cujo on the
roll
shoulder.
those eyes. I'm gonna roll them right off this cliff, bro. All right. I would say that
My gosh.
you, like, she kind of at the mutual friend. She's like, I don't have any friends who are reptiles. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know friends that are reptiles. She gets confused, like, who would we have that are mutual friends? And anything you can say in front of me, you can say in front of my goons. Okay, goons, school, goons. All right, we goons. We Largo's goons. Okay.
I guess I try to narrow it down a little more and mention but how many of these goons have a passion for helicopters?
She kind of looks at you. She's still, and it genuinely seems like she has no idea what you're talking about. Like, helicopters. And remember, Truffaut knows of her. It's not that he actually knows. Like, he has heard of her. He's got intelligence, because remember, he's got little agents all over the valley, kind of like Ringo, listening, keeping an ear to the ground, and he's heard about her, and she's very, she's huge, younger, and formidable. I would say, even though your measure enemy failed, Cujo, you would probably guess, like, you probably don't want to make an enemy of her. She seems, especially with these other gorillas around.
I'm just going to say I have quite a bit of feral points stacked up, and I can take down some pretty significant foes.
I just want to say, I have 26 feral points right now.
Yeah.
Well,
I
can't use
have a
them if you're
tail.
dead.
Wanna go,
Yeah.
bro? Let's go, bro.
None of these chimps or gorillas have tails. I've got a tail. I like these odds.
So Hamill's
chimpanzees-
gonna-
don't chimpanzees? Oh no, like little monkeys. I don't know my apes.
So Hamill's gonna pop up and just say, like, sometimes it's really hard to just resist
To be a
saying
woman.
everything you want to say all the time, but it's important to like resist those urges and keep some things close to the vest.
Okay, she's kind of kind of looks down this tiny little weasel that's as big as her ankle. What did you just say?
Sometimes it's really difficult to resist just spilling the beans, and sometimes you've got to resist the urge and keep some things close to the vest.
Quiet. That's a bad word here. You never know who else could be listening
Or watching.
or watching.
So why don't we go somewhere more private so we can discuss?
There is nowhere more private. It's just the islands have mixed feelings about our landlords. This is as close to a secure place, but you need to be quiet. It's a very sensitive topic that you're broaching here.
What if we told you that we had a way to deal with the Watchers permanently?
She thinks about this, looking at you all. You little things, you think you can fight the Watchers, just you.
Not by herself.
She stands up, and she's like 12 feet tall. I guess she stands up. I would have trouble with them. This one, she points down at Hamill, and she holds up a finger, and her finger is fairly close to the size that Hamill is. Fairly close. It's not like exactly right, but it's getting kind of close.
Get a little crack in the voice, and Hamill's like, strength in numbers.
Chai is going to sit here and kind of roll. He's going to, I mean, no one else is going to know what this is, but he pulls the grenade out of like his cart, and he's like, judging things by your size, are we? And then he holds up the grenade and he's like,
she reaches out to
something
take
is
it.
Small and he pulls it away, of course, because no one knows what this is. And of course, I would venture to say I'm more agile than this gorilla. I'm hoping. I mean, I've got a 4 in agility. But anyway, he whips his hand out and he's like, judging things by its size is a juvenile task meant for people. And he points to McCloud of that age group.
Okay. Maybe you have some tricks up your sleeves, but why should I trust you? I don't know any of you. Yeah, bro, we don't know you. Yeah. Why should we stick our necks out to help you?
Let us help you first.
She thinks
Let us
about
earn
that.
your trust.
How would you do this? She thinks. Hey, bro, stop calling me bro. I'm a woman. So she thinks, have you had run-ins with sentinels before?
Yes, not with our tools.
Do you know of the checkpoints around the
Yes.
valley?
Yes, we tend to avoid them.
Did you come by the northwestern checkpoint on your way to the islands?
I don't believe so.
You guys
Oh, we
did. You
took
guys
the-
came
yeah, we
like
took the land road.
southwest. You guys went down and kind of around, got that, and then you hit the river and then went up. I sent a friend to scout the checkpoint yesterday. He should have returned by now, but hasn't. I sent him with one of your toys, but it was different. It was a red gun. Could make fire go. If something went wrong, he was supposed to make fire in the sky. But he has not come back, and there has been no fire in the sky. if you could find him, or if you could scout the checkpoint and count the watchers that are there, perhaps we could be friends. Perhaps you are right, and size does not matter.
Who is your friend?
His name is Rutherford. He is a gorilla like me. He is a bit of a hothead, but very funny. He often makes jokes with thumbs. I don't understand it. He says it's some sort of human thing. I don't understand it. But he is a good gorilla, and if you want to be friends with me, then you would also have wanted to be friends with him. What say you?
Sounds reasonable. Helena will pipe up.
These cats just come out of nowhere. Okay. Be careful. Trying to fight the Sentinels would be folly. We cannot hurt them. Even I have had my troubles taking down drones. And you see her like kind of pick up like a rock and just and she just smashes it. It is much harder than that. And she just, the dust kind of goes down.
I wish we knew how it could have stopped them from taking my brother.
We all have brothers and sisters who have been taken. Welcome to a very large fraternity. Yeah, bro, it's a fraternity. It's like Phi Delta Chi or something. They got like hats on sideways and backwards.
Oh no.
They got like Letterman jackets. So, what do you guys want to do?
So it was to the northeast or the northwest that this checkpoint was.
Northwest. There's a northwestern
Northwest.
checkpoint. If you look on the main map, you can kind of see it. I'll ping it for you. Over here, I'm pinging. Just northwest of the actual monkey head. There's a checkpoint up there. It's not that far. You can get there and back in a day, like a couple hours there and back, which is why she's so concerned. Like, he left yesterday and hasn't returned, and there was no fire in the sky. It's very peculiar.
I guess it's time to head that way.
So we had a bit of a difficulty getting in. Is there something that we could say that would ensure our re-entry?
What do you
We do know Maxwell. He gave us right in, but
But we're going to be going back in a different direction, right?
Yeah, we got a trip in and a trip out with the patchwork and the fishing lure. So getting back in could potentially be a problem. But if we had, what was this person's name?
Largo.
Rutherford.
Oh.
Theoretically, we could get back in.
If you have trouble, and she looks over to one of her bros. She nods at him. He goes behind this big tree. He comes back with a small bunch of bananas, 3 of them. She says, "These should get you across fairly easily."
I'm throwing those in the wagon.
Careful, they bruise easily. Gentle. Okay. What else?
Think we're good to go?
Okay. So you head back down the long kind of climb up the southern portion of the island. You seek out the dock area, the pier area. You do in fact run into Maxwell, who, true to his word, will give you a ride across. You can save those bananas. And he brings you back across from one pier to the next, and he said, "I think that's about it for me. I'm going to need some other payment or such to come across. But if you're going back and I'm here, we can perhaps negotiate at a later time.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. I hope the pants suit you well in your fishing.
They really accentuate my calves. Mrs. Maxwell's very impressed. Okay. So you all start moving away. Hamill, why don't you roll us a scout check as you begin to try to navigate in the direction.
Can I help Hamill with that by any chance, since I just leveled up scout?
Take
Cool.
take a +1 mod from Tchaikovsky's help.
My dad has those pants.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I got him for Christmas. He likes to wear them.
Does your mom like them because they accentuate your dad's calves? Because that would be super coincidental.
No, they give him like a mega wedgie, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Do you want to push that?
Sure.
Does that have the +1 on it?
Did you add your +1 for Tchaikovsky? A mod?
Right.
Assuming that's the gear dice that you added.
Yeah.
Have you taken a bunch of
That's extra.
damage? Oh, you just have low scout. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You hop off the raft and you start heading inward. Hamill, Tchaikovsky kind of in the front. It takes a while. You kind of get a little lost and turned around twice. You're going through some fairly heavy vegetation right off of the river where it's fairly moist and there's a lot of stuff growing. And twice you kind of get turned back and you find yourselves at a different bend in the river, but eventually you do manage to kind of break through. It takes a little bit longer than you would have hoped, and you realize that it's unlikely you'll probably be able to get back before dark at this rate. But there is some dying light as you come a little bit closer to what looks to be the checkpoint. At a distance, you all can see what appears to be some sort of building, some human construction. It's dark wood. There's some holes in the ceiling, in the roof. There's some overhanging trees. There is a broken road or path that seems to be going past it. There is kind of a sign out in front with some iconography, some human lettering and imagery that you can't quite place. You can see that there are 2 doors, one on either side of, like, one on one corner, like the southeastern corner, one on the northwestern corner, that you can see from a distance. And you can see, again, this is all without having to roll. You can see that there are 2 very large sentinels that appear out in front of this checkpoint. One is immediately in front of the building, neatly placed between these 2 doors, and the other is on the other side of the road. If you want to do any other checks, you can do some scout checks or something like that if you want to try to get some more info. And at this point, you're keeping at a relative distance. You look up, you don't see any drones in the sky with the naked eye. But if you want to do some sort of scouting, this is probably the safe distance that you can get without having to roll scout versus stealth. But if you want to do some scouting just to see if you can learn anything else, you're welcome to do that if anyone wants to do that.
I have a 3 in scout plus a current 3 in wits. So if anyone's got more than 6, definitely take it. But I can also give us a decent shot at it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah,
Cool. All right. There we go.
There's a fail. Do you want to push?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and push.
McCloud, it's a new day, right? You don't forget about your scry at any point if you wanted to do something. All right, so take 1 point of confusion. But as you're moving around, you notice a few things. As you look really closely, you can see that the sentinels don't appear to be alone. And while you don't actually see anything flying in the air, you do see some movement that the sun is kind of glistening off of on top of the roof as these metallic spider-like creatures are creeping and crawling over top of the roof. And you can see some of them have climbed down the roof and climbed up onto the sentinel. and are kind of connecting to them in some way. They have these kind of glowing blue eyes. If anybody wants to try to identify them, you can roll Know Nature. Let me check the mod really quick. Got my book over here.
I have a 2 in Know Nature and now a 2 in Wit, so that's 4 total. If anyone
with a +1 mod.
Gotcha.
I'm not me.
Yeah, I don't have anything in No Nature.
Okay, I'll give it my best shot.
Okay. All right, so you would know these to be what are called creepers. They are support watchers. They're a little bit smaller. They very much do what they appear to. They creep and crawl, but they also repair, and they're very potent scouters. They have very keen eyes. They have a bunch of different eyes at different points all over their spider-like body, and they're very good at like kind of scouting in ways that sentinels are like the big brutes, and they can do a ton of firepower, and they can hurt, and they're so hard to do anything with. These are more like repair support bots, also with the ability to scout. Drones are still the best at surveilling, but these are not too far behind. But you know that there's a little bit of distance between yourselves. There's some open space, kind of grass vegetation between yourselves. This little tree line that you're in, and the building itself. There's one large tree on the northeast that has like a little bit of overhang, but it's overhanging onto a roof atop of which there appear to be 3 creepers in total. One has climbed down, is crawling on top of the closest sentinel. The other 2 have remained on the roof. And the other thing, you find something in the ground. You pick it up and you look at it, and it's this kind of orange cylindrical object, and you're not really sure what it is. But if you roll a comprehend check, you can go right ahead and try to figure it out.
Oh, there we go.
You know this. You know this to be a cartridge for a gun, but it's a special cartridge. It doesn't fire a bullet.
Flare.
It's a flare.
It fires a flare. That is correct. And
Okay.
It dawns on you that the fire in the sky thing, this probably was somehow projected. You don't know necessarily by what, but it was likely projected somehow by this gun into the sky. And somehow it exploded up there, and that's where the fire came from. If that makes sense. But you don't see any signs of anybody else. It's just on the ground. You only had 1 success on your scouts, so you don't have any stunts that you could do to get more info.
Can I try to look
Gotcha.
around to see if I find any like blood or anything?
Scout test.
Yeah.
I will help you.
I would say no, because you're too busy. You were doing your own thing, and so
Okay.
you can't necessarily do both. But somebody else can if they want.
All right.
McCloud or Helena.
Point and scout, right? To do that or what?
You can just lend aid. It's fine.
Okay, I'll lend aid.
McCloud, are you doing anything?
I'm hanging back. I don't want to get caught by these.
Okay. Cujo?
Same. I'm just kind of hanging out in the distance.
Okay.
So 1 extra gear.
Laying
dice.
low.
1 extra skill dice. You
Yeah,
bump your
okay.
skill up.
Sorry.
So it's the green dice. The green dice are the ones that don't hurt you when you roll ones. The yellow dice and the black dice are the ones that hurt you or your items when you roll ones. You thinking about something to scry on there, McCloud?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Did you say the flare gun was shot? You said we found an empty cartridge, or
No, you found the cartridge, as far as Tchaikovsky can tell, is intact.
okay.
So it's a good cartridge, but he kind of with his knowledge roll, he would kind of understand the basic workings of this thing. It's very much like a bullet, and you've probably seen you all have seen the revolver that Truffaut. It's just a different version of it. It's like bigger, and it likely explodes into fire. You might have had a run in at some point and just accidentally exploded it. But he doesn't see the gun. He doesn't see Rutherford. Hamill, you were specifically looking for like blood or something like that.
Yep.
You do, in fact, find not too far away from where Tchaikovsky discovered the cartridge, find some blood on a few of the leaves of the vegetation nearby. And then you also notice these heavy sentinel tracks. Like they're just like almost like tank tracks that have gone and from this location run over some of the vegetation itself and gone back up to the building that you're looking at.
So I'll quietly share that information with the group.
Okay. You would probably, between everything you found, you'd probably conclude that Rutherford was likely discovered, but before he could load the flare gun, he was kind of taken by the Sentinels. The cartridge fell. Rutherford was probably taken.
And blood was shed.
And he was hurt in the process. What exactly happened to them, you don't know.
I'm going to take a sample of the bloody vegetation. I'm just going to kind of grab a handful of it and
sure,
put it in a pouch or in my pocket or something.
Okay.
What was Hamill's role high enough to know if like they brought him into the building that they were standing in front of, or no?
It certainly looks that way. It's hard to be sure because you can't see inside, but you definitely see the tracks went right back to the building. But beyond that, you don't know.
Okay. So if Hamill shared that information, then Chai would say something along the lines of, "Let's use this incendiary capsule to try and create a distraction or a fire of some sort to lure as many of these beasts away as we can to get inside."
I think that's much too dangerous. There's no way that all 5 of us could compete with one single sentinel, let alone 2 and some.
Well, I'm not saying to stick around where we start the fire. I'm just saying we need to create a distraction so we can get them away to make it easier to get inside.
You guys,
Can
I would
you
say
just hurt them with the thing?
Your no nature roll, your comprehend roll would probably know that first. It probably wouldn't hurt the Sentinels much at all. It would have to be incredibly well placed, and you have to be incredibly likely for it to really harm them. The Sentinels, again, are the incredibly strong ones, but the Creepers are much more fragile. So it's possible if you could lure the Sentinels away and leave the Creepers, you might be able to take out the Creepers. But like Cujo said, it's a risk.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know if I made that clear. I was just trying to like make an explosion go off. Like if I could scavenge like some kind of explosive material and then use the incendiary or the flare cartridge to ignite that to lure everything away. But yeah, it's definitely a dice roll either way.
You had 2 successes. I would say you know enough about how you could probably jury rig an explosion with this flare that would cause some sort of bright explosion. It probably wouldn't hurt much, but it certainly would draw attention of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just with what I have discovered and with what I know, that would be what I suggest to the group. Definitely not like we should do this.
Do you have a better idea, Cujo?
Use this information and go back to Largo and let her know. And then think of a game plan from there. Maybe we can get more people, get some more supplies, and then think of a better way to handle this. Because if anything goes wrong, we could all end up dead.
Yes, we have no eyes inside the buildings. We don't know if there are more creepers, and they could easily alert the sentinels to our presence.
Maybe we could get a fat scry going on here, McCloud. Maybe you could foresee us, our future.
While he's thinking, I would say you probably would be worried somewhat. I mean, you would know that you would have to convince her that if you found evidence of him that and you came back just with like a couple of leaves, you would probably wonder if that, considering how you
would be enough.
Considering how you guys tried to sold it as like, hey, we can help each other, we can be friends, would coming back
flare cartridge though.
Mm-hmm. But the idea,
we do have the flare.
Yeah, you have the flare.
Yeah, but the idea being like, did we do enough to help? Like, are we really useful if
Largo did
got
explicitly
all of us going out
tell
there?
us, don't be stupid and fight the sentinels because we're tiny.
I'm more than happy if you guthey will make new characters. It's awesome.
start that new campaign you want to do.
All right. While they're discussing their options, I'll climb up a nearest tree
Okay. No problem. Climb up just fine.
and start my scribe process.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and do your roll? And we'll see how well it goes. You and your climbing on top of things. It's so silly. I love it. Okay. I'm getting up Scry again so I remember how this works. Okay. So,
How many did I roll?
There's no base dice.
No base dice.
yeah.
You just did 2 skill.
Okay, you got your 2 skill. You rolled a 3 and a 4. So how many do you have an instinct?
It's supposed to be 5 because I have a 2 mod to it with 2 skill.
Okay, so just roll them regular from the menu to the left. However many you have left, the first 5 are your gear, or excuse me, are your base. Okay, you've got 1 success. Remember that a success, you see visions of the future, showcasing a certain action, who performs it, and if it succeeds, and if someone tries to perform that, they get a bonus. They get basically an extra success, automatic success to their roll. If you want it to be positive. If you want it to be negative, like someone fails a roll, then you automatically remove a success. You can push if you want to push, because every success you get is it's like you can actually add those as stunts basically. So it's up to you.
Oh, I could push the remaining 4.
So you would roll all the dice that are not that you didn't get 1s or 6s on the first time around. So okay.
Oh.
So you'll take 2 points of well, were those
Instinct?
Were those
These were base.
okay? If they're base, then you would take 2 points of instinct damage, or doubt, I believe it's called. But you still have 1. So if you want to kind of convey what you saw to the rest of the group, please do.
You're muted.
Yes. Okay. It starts out with fireworks, and then we see Rutherford. He's able to outrun the Sentinels.
Alrighty then.
Okay.
Guess this is what we're doing.
Okay.
But the 3 creepers devour him.
Okay. All right. So what's the plan then? What are you doing? I think that
Me being like the only one who can actually kind of hold their own in a fight, I'm just like getting real nervous over here by everyone's talk of this infiltration.
right.
I'm
Okay.
willing to go and run off on my own.
I just want
with the
everyone to know that I
distraction.
have the burrow animal power, which basically lets me escape without having to roll at all,
You're like
as long as the ground is soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
so-
a wagon, so as long as we're on the high ground, I can just wheel away downhill.
That's cool. All right. So Tchaikovsky, you're trying
You
to
get to the bottom of the hill and you're like, oh.
Yeah, then I gotta run.
then you realize, oh crap, they also have wheels and they're just like tailing down too. And engines while they're at it.
Yeah, they're ATVs for sure.
Yeah, basically. All right, so you want to try to go set off this cartridge.
Yeah, and I'm gonna
Distance.
see if I can scavenge for a like some kind of explosive material in my wagon, like something I can grind up
Okay.
into a powder or whatnot.
Roll your scavenge check.
Yeah. Ooh.
You got 1 success. So yeah, you come up
There's-
with
I find some curry powder.
you come up with some sort of probably we'll call it gunpowder. It's likely.
While you're scavenging, can you scavenge? Look for me a crowbar.
God, can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead. I prefer professor.
My lord.
Prophet me lord.
Me
Ooh.
lord.
That's the only title I've actually earned. All the other ones are trash.
No successes
Should
there.
you have
I'm
base
assuming
dice?
Does it not have any?
Neither of the rolls have
No.
base
None of
dice.
them did. So what's your base in?
It's,
I feel like
that's
what's
weird.
going on. Why are we having so much trouble with this?
I'll roll 2d6 because it's taken a couple of hits from doubt.
Good.
Ooh.
All right. So the first one's a no. Second one
Okay.
for the crowbar.
Well, so I thought the first one was a yes for the gunpowder
Yes,
because
but
I got
I
a
was
skill dice.
just testing it.
But
I
you
don't know
didn't-
why you guys are having
I
issues.
mean,
Yeah.
okay, so
Mine
roll
worked
another
just fine.
2d6 for the crowbar.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because remember, if you get extra successes, there's things you can do with them. You can kind of
Right.
get better out of it. All right, you got nothing for the second one. So
Nada.
you can push your second roll if you want to find that crowbar.
Yeah, I'll push the second roll.
Go for it. Roll. The first couple dice will be your base die. And then
I'm gonna add. Yeah, I'm gonna add 2 base dice to this for offsetting the.
No, you're just pushing. You're just rolling all your stuff. Okay, you
It's
got it.
because you're rolling the actual scavenge skill. You're not rolling the advanced roll.
Yeah.
You need to be
You need to do
using
the custom
advanced
roll.
roll.
But this. Oh, so I added. So then I added the scavenge in the wrong place.
You,
Scavenge in
no,
the-
you should
I'll
just
show
never
you.
be clicking the die next to the scavenge skill.
I'll
That's
show-
I'll
just
show you.
it's just like
Okay.
a placeholder.
Let's do a quick tutorial.
Oh,
I'll put
so
it
then
up-
I would put 3 into skill and gotcha. Okay, I see what you say. Or
You
I'm
got it?
seeing what- Yeah.
Does everyone else get that? Is everyone else understanding how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's just Derek. Got it.
Hey,
I'm
sorry.
just kidding. You're good. You're
We'll
good.
see. We'll see
You're
how
good.
things work out.
I got the push the second time. That's all that matters.
Okay. All right. So you do find a crowbar, but it's kind of a crummy crowbar. It probably will only work once.
As is tradition, yeah.
As all I need.
Okay. So you want to go try and find a place to set this off in a position that's going to draw the attention of the sentinels and pull them away from this building effectively.
Yep,
Right?
pretty
Okay.
much.
But okay, so why don't we do a scout test?
Okay.
If somebody wants to go with them, they can to help them find a place, but that means that you are not nearby in case whoever's going to check needs help. So if you
I
choose
think
to get assistance, that means the two of you are in a separate. We're splitting the party, and the two of you there's going to be the explosion group, and then there's going to be the looking at the building and hopefully getting Rutherford out if he's in there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think me and Hamill will be best for infiltration / scouting / breaking out, just because Hamill's small and hopefully can
Okay.
get some information, some eyes on, and I am strong and I can possibly break him out and or escape if in case we get seen because I have burrow.
Okay.
Can I just
Yeah.
be aware of my surroundings? It's mostly like grassy
Mhm.
/ dirty
Yep.
dirt.
Yep.
Okay.
There's
As opposed to
your,
clean dirt.
To your west, to the left, there's a road, but like you can clearly get from the tree line that you're in to the actual building with just like dirt and road. But once you get to the building, obviously there's some concrete and stuff up on the building.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I've got a 3 in scout. My wits has taken a couple of hits, but yeah,
Okay.
I should be okay if
Hamill
if
and Cujo are infiltration team. Tchaikovsky is the explosive team.
explosives. Yeah, or the
What
explosive
about
ordnance.
McCloud and Helena? Where do you want to go for this?
Long, where do you want to go?
Remember, you don't need a skill in scout to lend aid.
Yeah, I don't even remember I think it's just help. I can't even remember the name
Yeah.
for it. I read so many RPG books these days. They all have kind of similar concepts.
It's all blending together.
It's like, yeah, you're helping somebody. You get a +1 mod.
Right.
I have my stuff is I have 3 in fight, 3 in sneak, and 3 in heal.
Ooh, if you have a 3 in sneak, I would say you should go with the infiltration team just in case.
That makes sense.
I'll go with Chai here.
Okay.
Oh, my buddy's with me for once.
Okay. All right. So, Chai and McCloud, one of you's got to roll a scout for me, and
We're going to use his pinwheel hat to ignite the fire, feed it some oxygen.
+1 mod to try to find a suitable distance and place where you can make this explode to draw the sentinels away, but far enough away from them that you can get away from the explosion in time before they arrive, but also enough distance to give the infiltration squad enough time to get in and out without too much difficulty.
Mile.
And just to double confirm, it's scout, right? That I'm putting the +1 in?
Yep, I'm going to call it
Okay.
scout. Yeah.
All right. Rolling.
Okay, it's a success. You and McCloud start moving back into the underbrush, and you find a spot a little bit further down the road. Not so much a mile. That's a fairly long way, but probably about a half a mile maybe. And you find a spot of this rundown vehicle. Looks to be a Oldsmobile, and no tires on it at this point. They've been stripped. Some of the doors have been stripped. And it dawns on Tchaikovsky that if you can put the actual cartridge and the gunpowder that you just scavenged from your pack together inside, it might even create a bigger explosion with like this car parts going everywhere that might confuse and create an even bigger racket. Go ahead.
I was just saying, cool.
It is cool. It is cool.
Yeah, car explosions. What's
Okay.
not cool about that?
So you go ahead and you set that up, and the rest of you are kind of waiting, hiding. I will be asking for a stealth check, not right now, in a second, but just get that ready. So as Tchaikovsky and McCloud set this device, the two of you, I want you to both roll move checks to see how quickly you can get away, because you're trying to get away from here as fast as possible without getting caught in the blast and without letting any chance of them seeing you. So move checks. Okay. So you set it. You do one of those things where you draw the gunpowder in like an old Looney Tunes kind of line, and then you light it, and then it goes. And then the two of you are like, run for it. And the two of you are running. You dive into the bush. You start moving away. And then you hear behind you this massive explosion. And when you peek over, you see the car just kind of goes up a little bit. Like it was a convertible. So the convertible just flies up into the sky. And you can see this huge glow of red that just permeates the entire area. And you two are just booking it eastward in the direction of the river and trying to circumvent and kind of come around the southeast and maybe meet up with the infiltration squad. Infiltration squad, the three of you watch as both sentinels, at the sound of this, immediately their heads just rotate, and you can see that the one that actually had the spider on it, the spider climbs on top of its heads and starts kind of looking around, and both sentinels immediately haul ass down the road, with one of the spiders staying on top. The other two spiders that are still on top of the actual roof are now at like attention. Their heads are kind of up a little bit higher, like so, like the thorax part of this down, and so they're kind of like almost like they're looking and sniffing. Go ahead and roll your stealth tests at this point.
That's sneak, right?
Fingers crossed.
Sneak, sorry, yeah.
Can I use burrow instead and just
Just
go
a
underground and move
straight
towards the
sneak roll?
location?
Sure, you can use. You're still going to roll a sneak, but I'll say you can do it with like a +2 mod from your burrow. And where did I put them?
Oh my
Holy
god, you got a +2 mod and you suck.
Wait, why didn't it add my...
Oh, jeez. You can always just, if you need to roll extra dice, just do it like manually with the thing.
You basically tried to burrow inside of a sentinel.
Okay. All right, let me.
That's
Yeah, let me...
awful.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I got nothing.
All right, so I got 5 there. Hey, look, there's good news and bad news here. The good news is that they're gonna test Scout compared to what you've done, and they have 0 in wits. The
Nice.
downside, they have 5 in Scout, and since there's 2 of them, one of them's getting a modification, so they're rolling 66s basically. So
Ooh.
let's do this. Let's see if I can do this right.
Hey.
I did do it right, and no successes. Let's see, how did she? Okay, so Helena's good, and so is Hamill. So the two of you are moving across. You see as your Wolverine friend Cujo dives down into the actual ground and starts burrowing through. You can see like little bits of pieces of dirt begin to kind of break off, but it's sunset right now, right? So it's twilight, so the light isn't that great, and you just seem to time it perfectly as these figures don't notice as the three of you manage to get all the way up there. Cujo like is burrowing. All of a sudden he like hits this metal sign that's poking up out, and you just dong, and it just kind of moves. And he gets up for a second, kind of looks around, but fortunately it didn't make a big enough sound as to draw the attention of these spiders on top. And you are now underneath the kind of overhang of the roof, and they can't see you at this point.
So, not to spoil what we're just doing, but just for sake of following the rules.
Okay.
Since I used burrow, which is considered an animal power.
Okay.
When you do that, you have to roll a d6.
Okay.
And if you do that and you roll a 1,
Oh,
you have to roll for a feral effect.
Roll another one.
So when you roll another 1 for your feral effect, the GM takes full control of my character as an NPC. So I lose both my ability to speak and to use tools.
You see,
Everything
I said
What?
happened. He burrows across, bangs his head into this large sign, and then he pops out. And when you look at him, Hamill, and you two know each other, your neighbors, he looks far off in distance. You're like, oh no, this is the worst time. And you see him just suddenly start snarling, and he just bolts all fours west, runs across it, and one of the spiders. Oh my God, the worst things are happening right now to Logan. I know what's happening. I know it's crazy. He is just running as fast as he can. But there is a silver lining. One of the critters chases after him, and it's starting to you see this critter like climb down and begin to run after him. And eventually the two of them are just too far away, and you're like, we got a job to do. And you're like, he's on his own. What happens. And you now, the two of you who passed your stealth test quietly, carefully, you'd look that there are two different symbols. There's two doors. You can pick between which one you want to go to. One of them, they're both blue, and they both have what look to be these like strange silhouetted contours of, you think, humans. Like one of them is very rigid and has two legs. The other, it's like a circle atop of a triangle. It's very strange. It's very confusing, and you don't really understand his iconography.
It is
These
confusing.
these human languages make no sense.
Us gals are gonna go in the circle and the triangle one.
Okay. You pop inside, and oh God, it's awful. You see the stalls of this bathroom, which you all clearly know it to be, have tilted over. The walls have tilted over. The doors have been taken and probably scavenged at some point. The sinks themselves are just overgrown with like some sort of black and brown mud and like these little pieces of mildew and moss coming up out of the sink. And you look, there seems to be like these toilet paper dispensers that are laying on the ground, broken. But you don't notice anything in here. You are right underneath a hole, and you can kind of hear that click, 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 as the spider's moving up. You look around. You kind of check each one of the stalls. There's nothing in here. There's like broken porcelain toilets. And you step back out. You move back around, and you go in the one with the two legs, and you immediately see that was the right choice, because right on the ground there is this dark kind of reddish brown blood trail, and you see a fairly large gorilla, but not as large as Largo, laying immobile up against the wall, its arm kind of slouched on like its elbow, like right in a urinal, and it's not moving. They're wearing this kind of big heavy leather jacket, and you can see that in its other hand that's on the ground, like gripping tightly, there's this big red orange gun. And they're just, and when you get close, Helena, he's dead. You can see that there's too much damage, and no breathing. But the gun is here.
We have an F in chat for the poor gorilla.
Oh. Helena will take the gun.
Okay. You pick up the flare gun. You probably don't know exactly how to use it yourself, but you are aware of what it is. Tchaikovsky probably explained it to you to some degree.
Is there anything identifiable on him that I could also take back to Largo?
The jacket. He's clearly wearing this heavy leather jacket. People seem to know Maxwell by his pants, so this leather jacket probably has, when you kind of both pull him aside and away, you can notice that there's this cobra on the back, right? And then there's something in letters, and then another thing in letters over the top. We would know it as a biker jacket and probably the sign of his gang, but you don't know what the hell it is. It's just a leather jacket. But you slowly kind of peel it off of him. You can try to take the body if you want, but it's going to require force checks because this dude's big and
I
you two aren't.
No,
Just the
Okay.
jacket.
All right.
yeah.
So you take the jacket, you take the flare gun. You don't see anything else in here worth salvaging, and you step back out. And I need you to roll another sneak test to try to get back and out of sight at the hedgerow. And this time I can actually reduce. They lose their mods. There's only one of these things left. So it's the same roll as before. All right, so we've got 2 successes and we've got a fail. Do you want to push that? It's probably need to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to take 1 point of fatigue. It's not,
Okay.
but you still got a success. Let me go ahead and roll for my. All right, I want to clear that. All right, so because the one of the critters, one of the what the hell are they called? Creepers went with the sentinel, and the other chased Cujo into the bush. This one no longer gets the bonus, so it's only going to be 5 skill dice that they're rolling. Keep getting an input value for reroll. Stop telling me to reroll. All right, I'm just going to roll 5 dice normally. Here we go. Okay, no successes as the two of you, again, as you step out, it's much darker now. There's just a tiny bit of light to the west. And the two of you manage to get away. You have the jacket in tow. Hamill
And the flare gun.
and Helena, you run, you sneak back into the bush. You start moving away and away. Probably you all talked, even though we didn't do it on air. It would probably make sense that you had some sort of spot where you would kind of meet
Rally
up.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4 of you meet up together. And McCloud and Tchaikovsky, you don't see Cujo with them.
Where's Cujo? What happened?
He banged his head and got this look in his eyes, like that look in his eyes,
I love it.
and ran off. And one of those little metal spider thingies chased after him.
And you just let him go?
Well, it wasn't quite a choice of ours to let him go. There were things watching us as well, and he seemed to go, as they say, feral.
You all would know that too. That's a common thing. Like,
Yeah.
It's just really bad timing. It's just really bad timing. All right, so as the 4 of you wait around hoping for any sign of Cujo, you hear eventually, after about 20 to 30 minutes, the sounds of the sentinels screeching back up the concrete road, and you can peek between just enough of the trees to see that they have resituated themselves at the checkpoint. You can see 2 of the creepers still in the area, one on top of one of the sentinels, one still perched atop the roof. The third hasn't returned, and neither is Cujo. And that's where we're going to end tonight. And next week, we'll learn about what happened to Cujo.
Oh no.
Jeff has full control of me, so but just so you guys know, just for
It's a good thing you took that other helmet.
just so you guys know. So when I rolled my feral point, when I used my burrow, I rolled a 1, which is activates the feral tree, and 1 is the worst thing you can roll.
Yeah.
Basically,
Right.
it gives Jeff full control over me for
Yep.
D6 hours until I can be healed.
And
Oh
you
my
rolled-
So I
god.
rolled
And you
a
got
6.
6.
So yeah, so I'm basically
No.
incapacitated for up to 6 hours.
Yep.
I can't
Oh,
speak, I
no.
can't take any
No.
actions, and I can't do anything until I'm healed. So
Bright side.
It looks like I'm looking for you. Okay.
yeah,
Bright side, if you survive, you get a new animal power.
I already picked it, so hopefully I survive.
So there you go. It's gonna be really exciting. It's gonna be really exciting. Plus, it's dark and they gotta find you, so that's gonna be
Yep.
fun.
And you are
Oh my
burrowing,
gosh.
so
Oh,
yeah,
it's-
dark
No,
and
not
burrowing.
anymore. I erupted
No.
from the
Oh,
ground.
right, because you hit your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Banged his head, it made him mad. Okay, let's do XP really quick. Let's see. Everyone gets +1 for participating, sacrificing or risk something for your tribes. No. For the
No.
resistance, I would say all of you, considering that you're literally approaching a checkpoint and like confronting these sentinels, I would say I'll give you guys +1s for that. How about PC buddy? Any of you want to make a case that you sacrificed for your PC buddies?
Not yet.
No.
Nope,
No.
not at all.
Okay. NPCs didn't really come into place. Sacrifice, no. So none of those. Anybody for the big dream?
No.
Nah,
I would say
all I got was a treasure map.
Yeah, you've got a lead, but I would say you probably haven't sacrificed or risked something yet.
Right.
So everybody 2 XP.
I should have just fought Largo right then and there. That would have given me an extra XP point for my fearsome fighter big dream.
To
but,
use
you
on
know.
your next character that you roll as all the bros come swarming on.
But if I would have landed the measure enemy on her, then I might have
There's like
taken a
there's
shot.
like 100 apes in there, man.
They're respectful. They would have let us win 1v1.
Yeah, fisticuffs.
Logan was trying to end the campaign.
Oh my god. Not the campaign, just this cell. We'll pick up with one of the other cells. Is what we'll probably do.
We're all
That's when we go away.
rabbits.
I want homework assignment for everybody. We need to come up with a cool name for your cell. So think about that for next week. Are we playing next week? Logan, do you know your what it's looking like for
Next week I'm still good. Next
Okay.
week I'm still Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's the week after that.
Figure it out.
I'll let you know as soon as I know.
Sounds good. And I think let's see, Long, Derek, you guys are 9 to 5ers basically at this point. So unless something comes up, you guys are usually good. And then Ashley will double check, but we should be good again for 6 p.m. PST next Friday if you want to check us out.
We're good.
All right, so we're ending tonight. Follow the Twitch channel if you wouldn't mind. We're trying to get to that whole affiliate status. That'd be great. Anybody who's here, thank you for hanging out and listening to us make weird noise and me saying "What's up, bro?" I just
What's up, bro?
really exhibiting my inner frat boy. I never was in a frat, so it works out pretty great.
I love your random guard characters.
I know, man. Remember the butterflies, guys, from my Star
Yes, that's what I was thinking
Butterflies!
of.
Let's see. What do we got coming up? Join me tomorrow night on Notorious DMG TV. That's a Twitch channel. Notorious DMG TV. We're playing Tiny Dungeon. We're playing a fun little game. I'll be a player in that. And then Monday we've got our release of episode 40 of our Adventures in Lollygagging podcast for Zweihander. And then check us out next week on Thursday on Zweihander RPG Twitch channel for more of that. And then here next Friday for more of this fun little Genlab campaign. And we'll see what happens to Cujo. We'll see how Largo reacts to the death of Rutherford. And we'll see if that's enough to get you all in her good graces and to get a commitment to the Resistance. And we'll see if the Watchers have something more to say about it. But
You
that's
guys better find me because you won't have a fighter without me.
That's
So.
Oh, I'm
true.
well
I
aware.
die, I'm making a scavenger.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
Good night.
Hasta.
Bye.